Greetings, students. This video is unique. You don't need to do video notes for this video, but what I'm doing here is just to give a little bit of special attention to this new aspect that we have here in this speech, which is call to action. And for my synchronous students who are online, they are able to have this conversation together over Zoom. But for you all who are doing this course asynchronously, this is just not covered as in depth in the existing videos, and I want to make sure that you have access to this content. Okay, so just looking at our criteria for speech 4, but keep in mind this is also more or less the structure we'll have for speech 5 and for the final. I've pointed out in the previous video that what the structure is of the speech, and I went over Monroe's motivated sequence. And really, there's two things that I'm going to focus on. One here is this business of call to action, and the other is just to highlight some aspects of counterclaim, which is also new. So in terms of review, we have the claim in the introduction. So that's what you're persuading us to do. And remember that we want to sort of state the problem and solution in one sentence. Okay, establish the need. What's the problem that you want to fix? So all of main point 1 is only talking about the problem. Consequences of an action. What will happen if we fail to act? Okay. Main point 2, satisfy the need. What solution do you propose? And main point 3, visualizing the future. So these other two items, counterclaim. So you had a claim, the problem and solution that you propose. So counterclaim is the opposite of that, yeah? So an opposing view on your topic. And the way that I suggest you phrase this is some people might think. And to just be thoughtful, if you're identifying that global warming is a problem, so the opposite of that is global warming is not a problem. Okay, some people think global warming is not a problem, or they think maybe it's a problem, but it's not caused by humans. So what are we supposed to do? Oh, well. So whatever you're proposing is the problem, counterclaim is the opposite of your claim. And there's two parts to that, the turn against. So that's where we say, okay, some people think differently than me. And then there's the turn back, the second part of the counterclaim, where you then come back to your idea and explain why your idea is better than what the other people are proposing. Okay, you might be confused by that for now. You'll do your outline, I'll give you feedback, you'll be okay. Call to action is a bit of a different beast because you will do your outline and I may give you feedback on it, but if you do it incorrectly, it's just going to be a little harder for you to make sense of where you might have gone wrong. So there's a couple of things to keep in mind. Generally, the idea is, what do you want us to do right now, in this moment, in order to start taking action to solve the problem, okay? You need to have 2 or 3 options because we, as the listener, are going to decide what's best for us, okay? And then you need to help us achieve that, okay? So I'm going to go into a little bit of depth with an example. I've written an article in an academic journal. You can search for it, Jonathan Jones, Call to Action, you'll find it. But it goes along with these guidelines here, that it has to be clear and concise. It needs to require immediate action. We've got to be able to do it right now, not tomorrow. We won't remember. Right now, okay? You've got to customize it for your listeners. So again, this idea of giving them options, and you've got to support the folks so that they can get it done. So a couple of years ago, I directed a concert that was called I See Fire. And in that concert, it was produced by the New York City Gay Men's Chorus. And the concert was in 2017, I guess, just after Donald Trump was elected president. And there were a number of actions that his administration had taken that were harming the LGBTQ community or making them feel at risk of being harmed. And so the chorus was doing a concert in response to that. These are the things that the administration is doing. And so, okay, that's the problem. And so what's the solution? What are we going to do about it? And so we ended the concert by identifying a call to action. And it needed to have options. We had an audience of, I don't know, 1,000 people. So we needed to have a number of options, okay, so that people could make choices about what they were going to do. And here are the ones we proposed. So we phrased them as march, volunteer, pressure, run. So for marching, I mentioned that this was in 2017. In May was the concert. And so just a few weeks after that, there was going to be a march on Washington. And so this concert was taking place in New York. The organization provided buses, and we had a different website. The website that's listed here is the website for the event, but we had another website that was available so that while the concert was going on, people could sign up to go. And the organization was providing buses to transport the people from New York to Washington, D.C. so they could go and participate in this event. So the event's happening later, but what are we going to do right now to achieve this? You can go to the website, sign up right now to commit to going. Okay, March, one option. The next option, volunteer. So this, depending on what device you're looking at, the text might be very small, but the idea was that there are a number of organizations that people might choose to volunteer for. And so there are 4 of them that are listed here. One of them is called SAGE, which works with the elderly in the LGBT community. The New York Anti-Violence Project, which is looking at folks who might be experiencing violence, domestic violence, etc. The LGBT National Hotline, and the Ali Forney Center, which is provides services for LGBTQ, homeless, or unhoused youth. Okay, so there are a number of organizations where people could volunteer, and we gave specific information about what you needed to do in order to sign up to become a volunteer. If they had orientations for volunteers or information sessions, we gave all of that information to the people to help them do it right now with the website. Go there, do it now. The next option was pressure. Okay, so with pressure, the idea is to put political pressure on politicians so they will pass laws to protect the LGBT community. Fine. So there was this organization called Indivisible, which had chapters all across the country that planned and had a variety of different ways of maybe protesting or communicating with your member of Congress, with your senator, okay, these kinds of things. So we gave information about that. There was something called the Resist bot, okay? So this was an app that was set up that allowed you to directly communicate, again, with your member of Congress, with your senator, and it would go directly to them. So as an email or as a fax, I'm just looking now. Well, I'll find it later, but anyway, I used it, wrote to my Congress member, got a letter back from him indicating his response to what I had texted him about. It was wild. And it was a real letter. It wasn't like a form letter, like, thank you for writing. It was very specific to the issues that I raised in the letter, written by a staff member, but nonetheless. There's also a switchboard at the Capitol, so you could call the people. There's a comment line at the White House, or a switchboard there, and you could call them. That was disabled for a time during that administration. But anyway, it exists. So that was putting pressure, and again, providing support and help for the people so they could achieve it. The last option was run. If you're going to complain about what the people are doing who are the politicians, whether that's the city council, the mayor, wherever, well, you don't have to just complain about it. You could run for office yourself. Okay, and so there's this particular organization, the Victory Institute, that helps LGBT people run for office, but there are other organizations, Emily's List, I think, helps women to run. Run for Something is an organization that will help anybody who wants to run for office. So there are a number of different organizations that help people, because like, how do you run for office? What do you need to do? How do you get on the ballot? These organizations help people to do it. So those were the 4 options that we had as our call to action for the concert. Not only did we talk about those from the stage, we had a program for the concert. So there was a slip of paper that had all this information available to the people. And then also we had, after the concert was over, we emailed everybody who had purchased a ticket and sent the information on again, so that we're just making sure they have the support in order to complete it. Now this, overboard, like when we looked at that speech about glaucoma and the guy had, like, I don't know, 12, 13 sources of information and attributions. You don't need all of that. You don't need 4. 2 or 3 is enough. More than 1. And it needs to be something that we can do right now. So if it's in the future, how can we start it right now while we're hearing it? Because later we might forget, we won't remember, okay? Or of course, and there need to be 2 or 3 options. I said that, and you've got to help the people. I'm just going to show you an example briefly of a student from last year who did a speech, and here's what her call to action was.
We must bring awareness to the extreme cost of living in New York City and understand the true value of home and community where everyone has a decent living space. In order to achieve this goal, we have 2 options. First, I can organize a peaceful protest by checking in with city officials for a permit of the gathering location. This is a great way to express our views in a positive way that will make a huge impact. The protest will take place on Monday, August 10th, 2020 at 10 a.m. We will be walking with signs and banners from Wall Street to Times Square, 42nd Street. Another option you can take is attending local housing community meetings to share your ideas on other ways we can improve public housing. According to New York City housing authorities, due to COVID-19, all board meetings are streamed live at www.nyc.gov/NYCHA. That is NYCHA. Or www.on.nyc.gov/board meetings, or can be accessed by calling 408-418-9388 using event number 129-489-2597 and event password NYCHA board. For those wishing to provide public comments, pre-registration is required via email to corporate.secretary@nycha.nyc.gov or by contacting 212-306-6088.
So you see, there we have 2 options. We can do the march. She tells us where, she tells us when, how to get there, what we're going to do, what's it going to be like. She prepares all of that for us. The second option is to deal with the city council meeting, or however it is, with NYCHA, and how we can make comments, and here's the email, and here's the website, and all of the pieces that we need to do. So the call to action is not general. It's not a suggestion. It's very specific with details that are going to make it very clear how it is that we're going to do that action, help us to achieve it, and give us another option, and be just as detailed with that. Okay, so that's the story for call to action. If you have questions, send me an email. Take care.